And we are live. Hello, everyone. This is Howard Dare. Thanks for stopping by. So, I decided to do a Saturday night podcast. I was unsure what I was going to do, but then I decided I'd go ahead and do it. And I've got a few things that I want to talk about. I want to talk about my recent videos because they need some serious explanation, right? Otherwise, they're just completely unclear. I also want to talk about Trump because I believe that, it's an important situation here, concerning politics and everything. And I also want to talk about Mark Zuckerberg of Facebook and his recent manifesto that he released because, apparently he wants some sort of a do-over, right? He doesn't like what happened over the last few months. And he wants to just like do it all over again. Seriously, that's the way he's making it sound. It's amazing. I find it kind of hard to look at and deal with. So for some reason, I decided that it was like a topic, really worth, talking about more. So thanks for stopping by, everybody. And let me just make sure that you can actually hear me and stuff like that. Yeah, so I was unsure, about doing a podcast because I didn't know what I was going to talk about. But then I decided I would talk about my videos because they're, ridiculously complex. Not all of them. World's top 5 craziest bitches. I mean, that's not very complex, But the ones before that, they were kind of complex. So, that's always a great topic for me to talk about. It's like, well, what can I talk about? It's like, well, you can just explain what you were trying to talk about earlier. And I had gotten myself some coffee and and it was hot and it was just like, I don't know, something doesn't feel right. Something just doesn't feel right. And I realized that I wasn't doing a podcast. Yeah, the psychological war on men. It's quite serious. And part of, I did a video on it. And part of that psychological war on men is the facade that there is nothing going on, that there's no psychological war on men. And you've got nothing to complain about. Just deal with it, man. Man up, right? So we've got this dual situation going on where the men are being exploited because of their human instinct for affection, and they're being told that we essentially live in a fair, equal world where everyone's emotions matter and everybody gets taken care of. And at the same time, the man and his resources, his work, everything about him is what's being used to drive this whole engine. So it really is like sitting down in a room with a bunch of people who say, look, we're all equal and we all share all the work, but then they just make you do all the work. And every time you say like, hey, this doesn't seem fair, they just say, well, like, we really love you and you really love us. And this is what love is about. And it just keeps getting worse and worse. And the man just keeps working harder and harder. And, this misrepresentation. I've seen some interesting videos. I can't remember where it was, but it was a man who was doing a video log of his separation from an abusive wife. And it was insane, and he was keeping it hidden from her, but he wasn't really able to pull it off. He was able to do the videos and talk about what was going on, but he wasn't able to break the whole situation off. So every day he was just like, every video, he was just telling this new story about this crazy bitch, pitching a fit in the parking lot, or messing up with the rent or, the payments and, breaking the equipment. And, it's just insane. And he was going crazy. You know what I mean? It was killing him. It was ripping him apart. You could see the stress of the situation and the lack of concern for his well-being and his needs. It was horrible. And he's got like a whole series of videos out there. I'll track it down, because it's one of those examples of things not to do. Yeah, you want to know what to do. Look around at the world, right? Look at the condition and the state of most men who go along with what the system requires them to do. Look at where it leads them. Are they happy? Are they healthy? So this covers, this goes into this very difficult aspect of MGTOW. Well, let me just say that it's a psychological war, and there's like 2 or 3 variables going on at the same time, at least that I'm aware of. And they're at conflict. They're in conflict with each other. They can't both be true. It can't be that we care about everybody's feelings and that we're all equal and that you as a man have to do all the work and nobody cares about your suffering. These 2 things can't be true. But the women will say to you, that's what's true. And based on the male sex drive, and we don't even need to, we call it the sex drive, but it's just this human need for affection. The man will do almost anything. It's horrible. Yeah, it's a great subject, right? Yeah, that's why I have to do the other videos. That's why I have to do the political videos. That's why I have to do the, I guess you'd call them comedy videos. I call them comedy. I call everything a comedy video. No, I'm joking. I don't. Some of it's pretty serious stuff. And I have to break it up once in a while. So the young man is really being screwed over. He's being prepared, conditioned to worship women, to go along with the system in order to acquire resources, because that's what his self-interest is. But that's not what his self-interest is. What men think of as their self-interest is not their self-interest. What men think of as their self-interest is the economic interest of the state and of the woman, and the man just becoming an economic engine unto himself for no other purpose but to please the state and to please the women and to gain this, this false status from which he is so starved. It's hard to characterize. It really is. And the truth of it is being hidden from the men. In other words, the woman is smiling at the man and saying that she loves him. And and I'm not disparaging human interaction and people having affection for each other and being nice to each other. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that, in a fair situation. What I'm saying is that the delusions that men are raised under are not consistent with the reality of the situation. And if the man goes along with the delusions, he becomes a blue pill simp that worships women, loses his health, and loses his effectiveness in life, and is worthy of respect from no one. He becomes like a simpering, weak woman. It's terrible to see it. And it's a whole mindset. And you have to, because it's a psychological attack. That's the whole thing. It is a constant psychological attack on the virtue of being a man. That's how it works. And at the same time, we're all equal. We're all the same. And at the same time, women and children first. And the man's going to have to go out there and deal, and he's going to have to sacrifice, and he's going to have to beg, and he's going to have to do without, and she's going to be able to lie and use her sexuality to put the man at a disadvantage. And there's no such thing as, a bad woman. A woman can do no wrong, and a man can do no right, because he's just, this thing that wants to have sex, and the men believe it, right? That's what they are. So they just want to go out and earn money so that they can, raise their status. And it's based on scarcity. You know what I mean? It's based on the man not having enough, not having enough money, not having enough affection. That's how he's controlled, right? And so the man comes in here and he starts telling me about what a study is, about how successful he is, about how much money he makes. This is like a guy coming around me at the gym, you know what I mean? And starting to pose for his gym attire, his shoes and his watch. And I've seen this happen. I've had this happen, you know what I mean? Because I've been like playing around where I just try to load up as much weight as possible, right? On a machine. So it's not going to hurt me, and it's not a leg press, it's shoulder press, arm presses, things like that. And it's a training regimen that I use once in a while where I just go for maximum weight. And I don't just go there, I warm up a little bit, but then I go there. And it's just with the machines that I can do it. you know what I mean? Like, honestly, you can put 350, 400 pounds on a machine and press it, and there's no danger. And you can put all of your energy and all of your focus into that weight. And since if you've got an idea as to what it is, you're not going to rip and tear muscles out or anything like that. No danger whatsoever in doing this. If you have that little bit of experience with it, and handling the heavier weight as well. But you do that with free weight. Oh my God. You know what I mean? It would just slip right out of your hands and rip you to pieces, or it could, it definitely could. So it's a totally different thing. Yeah. So when I'm setting up to do this stuff, right, it's like the smallest guy in the gym will come over in front of me and start stretching and shit. Anyway, it's just so weird. Yeah, which completely takes me off topic. I apologize, people. Yeah, these podcasts, I was talking about one of my earlier videos. It just came up, gold digging horse throughout history. And I really liked that video, and I put a lot of effort into that video. Well, I put a lot of thought into it and some effort. All right, I phoned it in. But it's a longer video with, it covers the entire history of whores, from prehistoric times. And it was a nice idea, and I had some interesting, things in it. And I went back and listened to it, and it stunk. It was terrible. It was awful. I couldn't listen to it. I was like, oh God. The pace was too slow. It was just too slow. Yeah, and it made me realize that I'm probably, I'm probably equally as bad right now. No, I'm not that bad. So yeah, go back and listen to that. But it actually made me want to redo the video. Yeah, I know, because it was a good subject, and I had some good thoughts on it, but the execution and the treatment of it was pretty bad. Let me get some coffee here, people. Thanks for stopping by, everyone. Pardon me. Yeah, I think you guys can hear me. Testing. Yeah, looks like everything is working. Now, with just one person on the podcast, there's going to be these pauses, because I'm the only one here at the Howard Dare Studios. And things come up, So they're looking at this big storm in California, right? It's coming my way. I'm in Arizona, right? I hope that doesn't dox me. Now I'm screwed. Yeah, we've had a little bit of, rain, nothing serious. But it is a different type of rain. It is the California Pacific Coast rain that lingers longer, which is kind of inherent in that word, lingering. But Arizona, it rains pretty fast. It's like flash flood, like the water, and it can be raining on one side of the street and not on the other. But on the West Coast, no, these storms come in and they can just hang around for days with this slow, heavy, steady downpour. So Yeah, I can recognize that because I'm from that area. Okay. So very confusing subjects in my last few videos. And it was like, even as I was going into them, I was thinking to myself, man, this is just not going to be really popular. It's just not going to get a lot of views. Um, and there's this balance, between that content creator, I guess I can call myself that, has to come to. You know what I mean? Like if you're just going to release this deep intellectual video once every month, it's not going to get enough views. So that's one of the reasons why I like these podcasts, because I get to talk about the videos and the ideas as opposed to just making a 10 or 15-minute presentation, which for me, anyway, yeah. So it's a psychological attack happening on the men, on the boys. They're conditioned to actually work towards their own enslavement. They don't have an accurate representation of what their self-interest is. And this is true of all modern man, and we can just talk about money is what we can do. And, it's like all the values will be sold out for it. And it's like, oh, that's the smart thing to do. And it's like, oh, you don't want to do that? Oh, okay, how about $1 million? Oh, you don't want to do it? How about 2 million? How about 5? How about, oh, okay. So, so it's this reducing down of the human being to a commodity. That's what it does. That's the purpose that it does. So if you were a person coming into this situation and you had a lot of money, you know what I mean? You would want to say, oh, everyone has their price. Everyone can be bought. But if you were a person who never had much money, but had always worked hard, you would want to have a different view of it. And that's the problem. You know what I mean? Is that everybody wants to have that view that money is the only thing, and it's not. Do you want to trade your health? Because that's what men do. They work so hard, they become so stressed out. I know some great guys, good guys, but they're working themselves too hard. They're sacrificing themselves. And I suppose I did it too, like it's the good and noble thing to do. It's like, is it? Are you supposed to run out there like in a battlefront and get yourself killed? Just sacrifice yourself? Or are you supposed to recognize the situation and pull back and fortify and, reposition? Men are taught to just sacrifice themselves. And MGTOW suggests that when the situation is so unfair as it is now, that the men should pull back and should reassess what's in their own best interests. Not what the media tells them, not what some woman tells them, not what advertisers tell them. And you have to figure this out for yourself. So it's a very challenging proposition, right? So the guy is coming to me, a young man is coming to me and telling me how often he gets laid. It's like, no, you don't. And if you did, you wouldn't be telling me this. Or he's trying to shame me. And it's like, yeah, that's great, and your desire to shame me mirrors your lack of confidence in the whole situation. These are the things that drive men, and they don't even know it. They're not even aware of it. And so here we are working to break men out of this bondage, this slavery. And some of what we do, just brings it back. We don't even know how to find our own self-interest, how to break free. And going your own way, recognizing the system, the gynocentric nature of the system and how unfair it is towards men is one thing. Finding your own way is another thing. So to turn away from the blue pill gynocentric world That's stage one, and that's going to lead to, red pill rage. And I'm just, tossing that out there. But that doesn't give the man an anchor. You know what I mean? That doesn't give him something to look, to focus on. These are the things that the man has been conditioned to determine his self-worth by, his existence by, what women think of him. That's why the young man is in my comment section talking to me about what his study is, not realizing that, he doesn't really need to convince me. And I don't encourage this kind of a conversation, or some guys getting mad at me because I'm not being respectful towards women. And there's an interesting thing, because look at the men who are respectful towards women. They look like shit. Those men don't get strong. Now, I'm not talking about a young man who loves women. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about these guys who are politically active, who are fighting for women's causes, who are super strong egalitarians and stuff like that. These men become kind of fat. These men become kind of crippled. These men become over emotional in their worldview. This is not the way of the man, oh, we're all equal. No, if you treat a man and a woman the same, that man is going to become a kind of a soft, blubbering, emotional kind of a man. And it destroys the man's health. It really does. Well, it doesn't. The man needs a bit of a different kind of a diet, a different kind of an outlook on life. I've put this out there. Why do men in prison get so buff? Why do they get so muscular and lean? Okay, because they're not eating quality food, and they're not getting enough exercise. So what is it? Well, I think it's their attitude. I think they know that they're, that they can't indulge any of that feminine emotional bullshit. They've got to act right. They've got to keep their eyes open. They've got to be alert all the time, because another man might kick the shit out of them. They might do something stupid. They might, be in the wrong area at the wrong place at the wrong time. And I believe that, it's kind of like a normal kind of male predator, dangerous situation outlook. And I believe this ups the metabolism. And I believe that the men lean up and they get strong under those types of conditions. But I think if they're just sitting around watching TV and, talking to women about their feelings, about the women's feelings, and the women are complaining, about the wage gap, and the men are being sympathetic towards that and being sympathetic towards the plight of the people in the world, right? Which can go on endlessly, is just a hook, to manipulate virtuous people by. If the man does that, he becomes unmanned. He becomes soft. Are all men who do that, soft and weak? No, not at all. But I think it leads to it. And I don't think that the men are allowed to have pride in being men. This is, what my videos are about. They're shamed for it. So this idea of going your own way, it's like, what are you, gay? Are you a fag? Something wrong with you? So you can't even be like, hey, I'm not gonna follow along with you because and all the other people like you, because it doesn't seem smart nowadays. It's not working out for the majority of them. They're like, well, what's wrong with you? So if they were all just like lemmings falling off of a cliff and they were like, hey, come on, let's go to the cliff. And you were like, no, I don't want to. They'd be like, what the hell's the matter with you? What are you, stupid? Yeah, that's, and they're going, and they're going to jump off that cliff. Right. So there it is. Right. So the weak, simpering man who finds his validation in his material possessions and this false estimation of what he imagines women and other men think of him as he, flaunts his material goods, but he's losing his health and he has no backbone and he doesn't believe in what he's doing. And if he tries to assert his masculinity, if he tries to find his own way, they'll shame the shit out of him. I mean, MGTOW, no. what they'll do, how they'll come down on him. So that's what I'm talking about in my last few videos. That's what I'm trying to talk about. So MGTOW, there's this recognizing gynocentric system, but there you are. Now you're just angry and you've got nothing to base your life on and to motivate yourself. And if you try to, base it on yourself, your own masculine virtue, the world is going to shame the shit out of you for that. That's hard as hell. You know what I mean? That's the difficulty. And chances are the man has been beaten down. He's lost everything. He's been brought to this lower state. And now he recognizes, oh, the system that I've been working in, they've been cheating me. They don't care about me. I have to turn away from it. But he doesn't have anything to turn towards. Nothing good. Right? But hey, sometimes the best thing you can do is just walk away from a beating. You know what I mean? It's like, no, you're not. It's like folding up a poker hand. That's it. You lost. So fold up, and keep what you have left. Sometimes that's a good deal. Right? It's like, oh shit, I don't feel like doing that. It's like, no, sometimes that's a really good deal sometimes. I've told the story about I kind of like the story when a man tells about breaking up with a crazy bitch and all the hell that she puts him through and all that he has to lose and sacrifice just to get out of the relationship. And how when he's finally away from her, it's like, and it was the greatest moment of my life. I hadn't felt that good in 10 years. I'd lost everything. I'd been through hell, right? But at least I was free of that bitch. And I know that feeling, So women do turn sour, Yeah, see my earlier videos, they do cover a lot of great subjects. They really do. It's just they're slow and they're, yeah, I should redo them. I should definitely redo them. Let's see, how are we doing over here in the chat? Hey, okay, people are here. I thought I was the only one here. I thought I was talking to myself. I actually am talking to myself. So it's a strange conversation, and I've been thinking about that too, right? It's like, well, it is a conversation with one person. But it does get better. The man can find his own way. He can find, in order to go MGTOW, he's going to have to find his own way. And that means he's going to have to find himself, doesn't it? In order to find his way, he has to figure out what that is. He's got to figure out what he wants. He no longer becomes this automaton, that's just going to make as much money as possible, get married, build a family, be a good husband, be a good father, and sacrifice himself. Because that's the conditioning, that's the script. And then there's all this globalistic, feministic, altruistic self-sacrifice for the man, and shame for the man, and starving of affection and shaming for all of his natural behavior. And now you've got yourself a little economic engine, because he doesn't even know what's in his best interest. You can say to him, will you go into that nuclear power plant with the nuclear poison and destroy yourself? And he'll say, no, I would never do that. And if you say to him, well, if I give you enough money, will you do it? And he'd say, no, I'll never do that. And if you say, well, I'll give you enough money and I'll make sure that your family has enough money, for their, rest of their lives, will you do it now? What does he say? And if he says, no, not going to do it now, what do we get to say to him? We get to say to him, but don't you love them? Aren't you a real man? Hey, isn't it terrible those people that are suffering and getting those bombs dropped on them? You don't want that to continue, do you? Don't you see what we can do here? So it's like, no, you don't want bombs dropping on people. No, you don't want people suffering. And it's like, well, okay. So now I'm going to take your money, right? So now we're going to take away your freedoms. I'm not going to give up my freedoms. I'm pretending that I'm in charge here, right? I like to do that. I like to pretend that I'm the dictator, right? I'm the tyrant, right? So we're going to use this moralistic approach to, get the people to sacrifice their wages. But we, the state, we're not going to sacrifice anything. We're not going to do anything like that. Right? So you approach people and you say, here's this great cause that we all have to become involved in. And, a lot of people do, and they're just dupes. There's no great cause. This is a con job. That's what socialism is. If you want, hey, if you want something, work for it, build it. That's all. So all of this other stuff of, shouldn't we do the right thing? You don't want to see those people suffer, do you? All of that stuff. It's a manipulation. It might be, like this childlike dependent female pipe dream as well, because you are going to extend care to your dependents. We could also say it's, this pure inversion of virtuous values by the people who just simply don't have them, right? So here we are, and we are based on competitive exclusion. Sorry, people, that's the way it is. The best rises to the top, and the rest fall by the wayside. Competitive exclusion, that's what we're based on. And it's a good thing because it's an engine. It drives all kinds of progress and evolution as well, right? So when people say, yeah, Trump wouldn't make a good president, it's like, no, he would actually make the best president. It's like, oh, we don't want the strongest, most accomplished man doing the job. It's like, no, that would be wrong. It's like, no, that's actually the exact right job. That's the exact right situation. So, yeah, that's, what we're based on. And it serves us really well. That the champ really is the champ. But with that prosperity, with that success, with that evolutionary engine building these perfect machines, you're going to get prosperity, production. And we sure did, didn't we? And then you're going to get a class of dependents. And you know what they're going to do eventually as they grow in population? They're going to invert the values. So all of those things that you praise, hard work, all of those things that you admire, ability, strength, leadership, overcoming obstacles, okay, as this dependent class grows, they're going to start saying things like, no, that's not what's most important. What's most important is that you take care of strangers. So all of these people that are capable, that are strong, that are winners, this other group of people are going to say, oh, winning isn't the most important. It's how you play the game. Everybody's a winner. They will invert the values. That's all. I don't even know if people are evil. I wouldn't ascribe that to them. You don't need to get angry. This is another great point of some of my recent videos. Okay, given the fact that this is a situational screwing of you, right? It's not, you didn't get screwed over by this gynocentric system because, they don't like you. You got screwed over by this gynocentric system because that's what they do. That's what it is. So it's nothing personal. And it's a constant psychological attack. Even if you're MGTOW now and, you remove yourself from it and all that stuff, no, you're still under attack. Everybody you interact with, those are their values. And if you go against those values, they're going to look at you like you're crazy and they're going to shame you. And if you go along with their values, you can potentially become this weak, simpering kind of bitch man. obese, diabetic, emotional. Take a look at some really, I saw a really out of shape man, and he was really talking about how much he loved the women, and how equal they were, and how they were no better, and he was no better. And he was like a fat, crippled kind of man, and it was like he was all emotional and he wanted to hug the puppies. And this was a full grown man, and that he felt shame. That he was like, something doesn't feel right here, but he just couldn't put his finger on it. He just couldn't wrap his head around it. And this is what I'm saying. The men are being indoctrinated in this one way of thinking about the world, but if they think about the world in this feminine, emotional, we're all winners kind of way, they become these fat, ineffective, weak men that nobody can respect. And their own health goes away from them. And I'm also saying that it's a psychological attack, that as the man tries to find that masculine pride, as we try to build ourselves up as men, as we try to get together and build MGTOW, we will get shamed. That's what I'm saying. So the man ends up fighting against his own interests. You know what I mean? It's like there's a young man and he's talking about, hey, the most important thing is, this is what a feminist looks like. And he's holding up the sign and he's smiling at the woman, the young girl, because she's hot. And he's thinking, this is going to get me laid. And he doesn't realize that, no, she doesn't respect that at all. She would respect a strong man who says, look, I don't want to violate anybody's rights or anything like that, but don't even fucking try to play any bullshit around me. Don't cry. Don't play the victim. Do your work, do your job. I'll respect that. And anything else, anything less, like, no, we're not going to have any sort of an association under any circumstances, And if women were treated like that, I think that we'd see a big turnaround, But of course, the young man raised by a single mother, the young man who wants to get laid, the young man who's been watching media, listening to the music, watching the movies, buying into, what he's taught, and he should. I mean, how can he not? He's like, hey, man, Howard Dare is a misogynist. Howard Dare can't get laid. It's like, that's a bunch of bullshit. It's like, I'm quite capable and pretty much, I can do a lot of things. And I believe that as a man, goes his own way and finds confidence in himself and doesn't go the way of, where he's expected to go, I believe that that is the natural path of a man. I believe that is the attractive, healthy path of a man. I believe that this consumerism, that this feminist, globalist, ultra-civilized man who goes along and judges himself based purely on his material wealth, I do not believe that that is the way of a man. I don't believe that a man laughing at the boss's jokes, even when they're funny, is the way of a man. I don't believe that a man always going along with women is the way of a man. I don't believe that a man doing whatever he has to do just to get laid is the way of a man. I think that's the way of a scumbag, of a douchebag. I think a man who, I think we're in agreement here. I think reasonable, rational, intelligent men can agree that a man who's going to just base his whole life on satisfying his physical wants and needs and his lust and the things that the society around him has told him, are the important things, that a man who's just doing that without thinking about it, that he's an animal, that he's not an intelligent man. He's not a thinking, capable man. He's a worker. He's a beast of burden. He's a sacrificial animal. And he's not going to want to look at this situation. But the situation is going to destroy him. It's going to destroy him, and he's going to have to look at it. That's part of the reason for MGTOW and, its popularity. It's growing, right? Because the conditions are so bad that the men are just getting destroyed, that, all these good men, all these guys who are just trying to do the right thing, that are just trying to get by, that are just trying to live a good life. It's like, well, guess what? Welcome to the jungle. You're in a lot of trouble. The things that you think are about you living a good life are about you being a servant and shaming other men and competing with other men and hurting other people and getting ahead, because that's what's most important, right? And it's like, well, maybe your health is important. Maybe what you actually want to do is important. You know, it's like you're going to be a mediocre lawyer, but you'd be a great musician. You know, I don't know. I don't know. Sometimes I go too far. Sometimes I go too far. It's like, one of my videos I was saying, I don't care if women are in politics or anything like that, as long as they do it based on their merit. But the truth is that the women have been given this leg up in all these areas. It's like, oh, you want to be a soldier? Oh, okay. You don't have to know how to shoot a gun. What? Oh, you want to be a fireman? Oh, well, you don't need to be strong enough to carry a person out of the fire. What? So as it is, women are just these, in a lot of instances, women are just retards that are just being given jobs and they can't do anything. And the men have to play along and then pick up the slack. And I'm saying that, this breaks the man's spirit. You'd never do it with another man. So this whole idea of, this moral imperative, like we have to do this thing, we have to help these people. It's just something that people use to gain the moral upper hand in a situation so that they can then control you and your resources. It's like, yeah, people are suffering. I'm sorry about that, but that doesn't mean that you're supposed to take away my tax base and destroy the infrastructure of my country. That doesn't mean, they're suffering on the other side of the planet. That doesn't mean I'm supposed to go over there. There's two dogs that are fighting, on the other side of town. That doesn't mean I'm supposed to go over there and put my hand in between them. There's these horrible events happening someplace in the universe. That doesn't mean I'm supposed to stop, drinking my water. And anybody who's coming forward with these ideas, like I said, it's this dependent, feminine, magical idea. It also could be estrogen poisoning, just the whole idea. We've got this idea that grandma can do no wrong, that the women are always angels. And we've also got this thing that the men worship the women. Now we've got, with modern technology and shit, we've got a lot of estrogen poisoning leaking in, through our entire water table, throughout our entire food system, our entire ecosystem. And the thing that's going to get hurt first, the canary in the coal mine in this situation, is male sexuality. That's, what's going to change. And you've got a lot of transsexualism taking place. This is what would happen. The changes that are occurring in the human population across the world, across Western civilizations, are the same types of changes that would occur in an insect population if you were poisoning them with an enzyme to turn the males into females. You like that? Yeah. So whether intentional or not, we are being poisoned as men. And this decline in masculinity, this rise in this female power, yeah, that's what it is. Well, that's a part of it, in my opinion. That's part of this dynamic. That's part of the variables involved in it. And, you don't have to understand everything in order to fucking interact with everything. Like, fire bad, fire burn, gravity fall. You don't have to be a super scientist. It's like, okay, if you eat these kind of foods, if you adopt these kind of attitudes, if you involve yourself in this sort of culture, the man becomes feminine. He becomes weak. If you adopt these types of attitudes, women can't respect you, even if they say we won't like you unless you adopt these attitudes. So there you go. And I know, because I have to deal with this shit. I have to combat this stuff. Testosterone is a great thing. Now, being unhealthy and unbalanced, no, that's not a great thing. But when a man has his, hormones in order, holy shit, he can do things, right? He can build empires. It's amazing. So that's the greatness of man that we as MGTOW need to be going after. And the rest of it's all bullshit. You don't need to be angry. You don't even need to be upset. I want you guys to be able to overcome the psychological problem, the burden of being attacked like this. Because it is. It's a horrible psychological attack. And I believe that once, you get some understanding of it and you realize that it wasn't personal, right? That she would have divorced any man in your situation. She would have run him through the ringer. The courts would have done, did this to all the other men that they got a chance to. These lies that played upon your, virtue and your good nature as a man, that tricked you into going along with a system that made a fool out of you and, physically destroyed you and put this, probably financially destroyed you and socially destroyed you as well, because that's what the women do. That's what the blue pill men do. That's what this system does. And they trick you into thinking that, that's the right thing for you to go along with it. And if you don't even, and if you don't agree with it, it's like, well, do you want to see those people suffer? You don't want to see those people have bombs dropped on their heads and have them blown to pieces, do you? And it's like, no, of course not. It's like, okay, well then, welcome refugees. So that's how they play that, and you as a man, you have to be strong enough to know. You have to have the experience, you have to have the wisdom, you have to have the confidence, you have to have the support of other men, MGTOW, to know that your way is the right way and you're going your way. And if you have to, you won't have anything to do with those other people. And that's what a leader is. That's the confidence. That's the vision. That's the consistency. That's the professionalism. So, and you can overcome this psychological attack. You're strong enough. You see where it came, what it's doing, how it comes every day, how the other people around you reinforce it. They can't help it. They've been conditioned. They've been shocked into submission. So if you say anything bad about the women, it's like, well, sometimes women aren't the most perfect, most beautiful angels in the world, and maybe you shouldn't be worshiping them every single second. And it's like, oh my God, you're a faggot. You're a complete gay retard. Ha, 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 ha. It's like, so, you can't even say these types of things without the entire system coming down on you. And then it becomes internalized. So there's the psychological attack. And it's not personal. And when you say, oh, this is a great element here, understand this. One of the elements of a psychological and a political attack is that when you say, hey, stop attacking me, they say, oh, we're not attacking you. Right? That's what a political attack is, people. It's a covert, attack. It's like, oh, you didn't get the memo, did you? No, you certainly didn't. It's like, oh, sorry, didn't mean to. Oh yeah, we lost your presentation. Sorry, guess you're going to look like a chump. Sorry. That's a political attack. That's a psychological attack. You don't know it. You don't recognize where it's coming from. So now you recognize as a man where it's coming from, what it is. Watch my last few MGTOW videos, some of our political videos, which I believe is related to MGTOW. Definitely, but the MGTOW psychological videos. Watch those. Understand the situation. Understand that, your self-interest is consistent with your health. It's consistent with your health. It's consistent with your values. It's consistent with what you want. Okay? You don't fucking eat the food that's the best for you. You eat the food that's the best for you that you like the taste of. You don't listen to the best music. You listen to the music that you like. Oh yeah, the ideal temperature is 76 degrees. Bullshit. The ideal temperature is whatever you need it to be to get warm right now. So where's your self-interest? It's like, well, that's the hottest woman in the highest paying job that will get me the most stuff. And if you turn away from that as being your self-interest, you're a sucker. And that's already been internalized into you. And whatever commitment you make, somebody else can just dangle a certain amount of money or power in front of you. And it'll be like, oh, well, okay. And that's why you can't trust somebody like Obama or Clinton or any of those people. And you've got a much better shot with somebody like Trump. You know what I mean? Because you just can't buy him off. You can't intimidate him, not financially, not in a business deal. Right? So MGTOW need to be strong like that. See, not locked into anybody else's way. And eventually you'll find your own way. You'll define your own way. You'll figure it out. And you have MGTOW around you to help you. That's what these videos are for. Although some of my earlier videos are kind of hard to listen to. I'm wondering if I should just take down some of my older videos, There's over 400 of them. And just leave up like the last 150. No, that wouldn't be good. I mean, time-wise, I don't know. Because it's not like the information, there is some valuable information there. And no, they shouldn't come down, right? But at the same time, man, they're slow. Man, they take a long time. Now, when I say that, understand, people, that, part of what we're doing here on YouTube at the Howard Dare Studios is we are making videos. We do want a certain amount of content going up. We don't just want a ridiculous amount of quantity. We want quality there, but at the same time, the idea of releasing like one video a week, like a 15, 20-minute video, that's absurd. The channel would never grow. So yeah, a video a day. At, in my opinion, at the minimum. But if you're starting out, a few a week. Definitely. Yeah, like I love some, MGTOW content, but they don't create enough of it. Right? It's like, wow, that's really good content, but it's only coming out like once every couple weeks. So the channels, they don't grow either. I still don't have a coffee heater. And I hate cold coffee. It's like a slap in the face. It's like an insult. It's like a woman that is disrespectful towards a man. It's like, bitch, without all of these rules in place, you couldn't do this. Without, so unfair. It's so unfair when women say that they're competing with men. They're not. Oh, I'm sorry. I don't mean to get overexcited, but they're not competing. Not when they can, use their sexuality and pull rank and claim victim status. And then, use that trump card of, you don't want to see those people suffer on the men and the taxes in their own system so that they can then just control it. That's what it is. Okay, I've made that point, right? So just making that point nice and clear. Okay, it's that moral imperative so that they can gain control over the system, but they don't really have those principles. Not at all. They just want to, get control of the system and get control of the money, because they can't produce any of it themselves. And there's your communism, there's your socialism, there's your inversion of the virtues and the values that build your society, your civilization, your relationship, your business, your health. Okay? Those are the very virtues that women and a dependent class will undermine and undercut. So you got to be strong. So you can't go their way, even though they're going to reward you, even though they're going to tell you that's the right way. You got to go, your own way as a man. And you're going to get so screwed over by that system and hurt by that system and confused by that system that you're just going to want to get away from that system. And you're going to, find out about MGTOW and you're going to be like, I got to go my own way. But you're not going to be able to find your own way. You're going to find MGTOW, so that's going to help. But you're not going to be able to define your own way yet. You're not going to know what it is. Because, there's always a thing. It's like, we have to change the ethics in this situation. It's like, no, we have to find ethics. It's like, I don't like this morality. And it's like, well, no, that's not morality. That's just been what the people around you have taught you to believe. And they didn't even teach you to believe it. They were taught to believe it. So they just beat the shit out of you until you went along. And that's what happened to them too, So it's like, oh, well, and that's morality. It's like, no, that's what they had to do to not get beat up. So that's, that's the system you have to turn away from and go your own way from. And you will, because it'll destroy you. I have to go heat up my coffee, right? Always on a positive note. You know what I mean? Always take a break on one of these really positive notes, because the people love it. And you know who else loves it? The advertisers. Right? They just love that. Yeah. I get some not advertiser friendly on my videos, right? I don't talk about that though. I usually take them down. You know what I mean? Like I leave them up there for a little while, and then I usually, actually no, I have no problem with those ones. I leave those ones up. It's the copyright claim ones that I take down. If anybody claims that, it's like I'm using their content when I'm not, I take those videos down because I don't want them making money off of my videos. I took down the Madonna offering blowjobs video because that was just disgusting. I mean, that was a real thing. She did it. And then I did a video on it. And it was just like, yeah. Like, that was just too tasteless. That was too ugly. It was too frightening. Right? I have some standards here, ladies and gentlemen. I have some standards here. No, not really. Well, not in the way you think. So I have my sugar drink and I have my caffeine drink. And this is the way they have to mix. Okay. You have to have this certain combination, this certain pharmaceutical combination. Trying to read comments and talk at the same time. If I had some bubble gum here, I would have killed myself. I would have like bashed my head into the monitor already. It's like, so you got to have this certain combination of sugar and caffeine and just straight up amphetamine. No, I'm joking. I'm kidding. It's the only fucking way to do a podcast, people. I'm telling you. You just can't do it otherwise. You don't have enough energy. Right? Yeah, that should work out pretty fine. You got to get the metabolism up there running nice and high. Give me about a minute. I'll be right back, people. Thank you. Yeah, because I still have to talk about Mark Zuckerberg or Zuck. I'll be right back. And we are back, right, from our, brief commercial intermission break there. I had to go get some coffee. Yeah, so I do want to talk about Mark Zuckerberg. Now, what an unusual, strange little fellow that boy is, right? You can't say the man. Now, I have to be really careful, right? Because he's a really powerful guy. And if I say the wrong thing, the power of Facebook might come down upon me. And he might like ban my account or something like that. I actually have come to I've made some friends on Facebook. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of cool MGTOW over there. So, I do value it. But I don't really use it. And I don't really understand it. But yeah, I really don't think much of Mark Zuckerberg. I'm an unusual MGTOW. I really am. I have completely non-traditional views on a lot of things. So he's reaffirming his commitment to globalism. He feels bad about how he couldn't give the election to Hillary Clinton. And, he works with Angela Merkel very heavily. And it's really disgusting because he puts himself out there as like some sort of liberal, you know what I mean? Who's like, wanting to promote, the welfare of the most people possible. And it's like, you got to be kidding, man. It's like, go ahead and bust up your company and go ahead and give them your money, pal. Otherwise, what you're talking about is moving them, is moving immigrant populations into, national borders, and then having the national borders take care of them. And you're calling that globalism. And whenever anybody speaks out against it, you're filtering, their content. It's disgusting, and they're calling, they're fake news. They're the ones trying to set the false narrative. Okay. The local populations don't want it. So he's pretending that the people who don't want globalism are the people who have been left behind by globalism, and that he's just going to teach them about what globalism really is, and that he's going to help bring the benefits of globalism to them. And no, they haven't been left behind by globalism. They've been screwed by globalism. And he's trying to present it like, again, it's from this, moral imperative. It's like, oh, we have to do the best thing for the future of humanity. It's like bullshit, you sniveling little snot. You don't want to do what's best for the future of humanity. You just want to come up here with your mealy mouth and take control of the whole situation and be the one who decides what happens. And you're deciding wrong. It's like, oh, we should let them all be the quarterback of the football team. No. We should let the strongest male, who's the fastest, who's the most capable, who's the most competitive, we should let him be the quarterback. And the way we're going to find him is we're going to put you guys into a competitive situation, and we're going to let you fight it out. I was like, oh, but someone's feelings might get hurt. Oh, but they're all winners. It's like, no, they're not all winners. It's like, oh, we have to take care of everybody. No. The snot-nosed, fat, lazy, dishonest people, we can let them fall by the wayside. We don't even want them reproducing and having children. So there it is. There's that other moral imperative. It's like, oh, but you're going to feed their kids, right? You're going to take care of their kids. It's like, what kind of a man brings his kids to another man for them to take care of them? You know what I mean? So it's like, where'd you get that mindset, buddy? I mean, I'm real sorry, but you may have some really, really painful lessons to learn in life. And, there are painful lessons to learn in life. Smart people don't have kids if, they can't take care of them. But stupid people, they have kids all the time. They have a lot of them. And then they're like, oh, you need to help with the kids. It's like, no, I really don't. So that's how the moral imperative is used throughout the whole system, to manipulate people with virtue. People who are ignorant, people who have no virtue, use it to manipulate the people who have virtue, and then they invert the values. Yeah, sorry, harping on that, right? So I got some coffee. Some caffeine. Gotta have it. To do the podcasts, right? Just for the podcasts. So that's the bullshit that Zuckerberg is talking about. I mean, have you seen his face? Oh my God. I mean, you can tell that he eats, that's not the way that a man's face is supposed to look. Okay. It's not supposed to be soft. It's not supposed to be round. It's not supposed to be fat. I'm sorry. It's supposed to look like Kirk Douglas. You know what I mean? It's supposed to be chiseled. It's supposed to be lean. It's supposed to be muscular. So promoting this, this image of masculinity, right? It's like, oh, we're all men. I don't know about that. If you don't take care of yourself, if you don't have pride in yourself, if you can't say no to women, if you don't know the difference between somebody using guilt and shame to manipulate you and control you like a puppet versus, you being a man and deciding what's right, I don't know. We're all male, but I don't know that we're all men. It's like, yeah, but he's got more money than you, Howard. It's like, yeah, he sure does, doesn't he? He has more power than I do too, vastly. It's like, oh shit, I had to run, yeah, considerably. We could build Facebook. With the way they behave, they really are like creating an opening in the market, aren't they? Right? We MGTOW, we should, man, the resources of MGTOW. I've got my MGTOW X series where I just, talk about other MGTOW because, they've got these great stories. One of the greatest parts about doing MGTOW was that I found out that there were so many people out there that just knew so much more than I did about so many things. I'm not the authority. I'm not the expert on these things. And to have access to that resource from all over the world, from men all over the world, and then to not use it seemed wrong to me, So, yeah, they give me a good story. They give me, I read it. I share it with you guys. And that's led to my refinement of the MGTOW success stories, which, straight up, it's just, here's what I did as a result of going MGTOW. Here's, where I'm making money. And the idea is that other men who are interested in that field would be like, how's that work? What's going on there? Can I, what's this aspect of it? Now, a lot of times men are just, expressing an interest rather, and they're not really ready to do stuff, so you can't spend too much time with somebody when they're at that stage, but when they work past that stage, they get into these concrete questions about how to do things. And, there's no reason why MGTOW shouldn't be able to help other MGTOW and share that resource, and that a YouTube channel shouldn't act as like a communications hub, a hub to facilitate that. Because, we have the greatest peer-to-peer network that the world has ever known at our disposal. The tools that we have at our disposal are amazing, and women are making much, much better use of them. And corporations and governments are making much, much better use of them. These things can be revolutionary and transformative in the freedom of the individual man, and they should be, but they're not. They're tools of, larger moneyed interests, of established exploitive interests. And if you just go along with the system, that's the way you go. Hey, Gentlefist Brewer asks, Howard Dare has a hot ex-wife. No, but I have some decent ex-girlfriends. Which brings me to the subject concerning, a MGTOW success story of turning your ex-girlfriend into hookers, into whores for you, and check out a few videos that I have on that subject. MGTOW success stories #1, and becoming the evolution of man, becoming the Superman, right? Yeah, check out those videos about, because you have these relationships with the women, and then you break off these relationships with them. And the women, they want to be so brutal, they want to be so harsh. It's like, I hate you, I'll destroy you now. But it's a shame to waste, to burn the bridges, as it were. So from a male point of view, it's really nice if you can just be, honest with women and just say, look, it's just a physical thing. I appreciate the affection, but other than that, the emotional and all the other stuff, it's just no interest to me, so if you want to come by once a month or when you need to, I'll gladly give you $100 if you suck my dick. And, nothing else, be nice about it. I mean, we're friends, so you can do that. And you understand that, you're just being honest. Right. So it's actually a whole system, and, going to do a set of videos on it because it's actually a trick. How to turn any woman into a whore. It's like, oh well, they're already whores. Um, so it's a comedy. It's a gag. It's a stunt. As all my videos are. As everything I do is, she said. Just having some coffee. Yeah, Zuck the cuck, and all that power, all that money, and he wants to bring in globalism, which is really just corporatism, because everybody is just a tool. Everybody is just a spoke, is just this, it's just a pawn in this economic engine. And that's your interest, that's your self-interest. So the man works himself to death. And Zuck is is in favor of globalism. But the people within the individual countries that are getting wiped out, they're not in favor of it. And he's, and like I said, he's pretending that the people who don't support him, they just don't understand. Feminism is about equality. It's about the equality between men and women. You don't know it, but you're a feminist. Like, you don't want to see people suffer. So, these are the ploys. These are the arguments. These are the conversations. Right. And that's part of the reason why I started doing MGTOW stuff, is because I would hear these, arguments, these conversations, shaming language. And it would bother me. False narratives, the news, people just playing along and reinforcing, mirroring all of these things, these ideas being mirrored in, all facets of our life. And it really drove me crazy, really frustrated me. So I started making MGTOW videos and, to gain some insight into these things that I feel that I have for myself, and I hope that I've communicated some of that, to people. And I think I have, based on the feedback that I get. And the feedback that is negative, I just fucking ignore it, man. I just delete the shit out of that stuff. Yeah. That's something that you really do need to develop. It's just yeah. It's like sometimes the woman and the feminist, she's not really engaging you in a conversation or in a debate. She's not really doing that. Okay. The blue pill man, the feminist man that's asking you a question about MGTOW, he's not really asking you a question about MGTOW. Yeah, he's just kind of using it as an opportunity to shame you for not going the way that he thinks a real man needs to go, or that, the feminist, or that a real man, needs to go. That's it. That's all they're doing. It's like a camel sticking its nose in the tent. It doesn't want to have a conversation. It's like a dog, trying to weasel its way into, into the bed or something. It's really just manipulating you. And it takes a long time, to figure that stuff out. Some people never figure it out, though, right? And I know some really smart guys too that are like, they just worship women. They just think it's the smartest thing in the world. And you can see, and they're not in good shape. You know what I mean? They're not healthy. They're not strong men. So I'm suggesting that it's a real priority for you as a man to be a strong man. And if you'll not go the way of the women, you'll find your own way. You'll recognize this attack and, where it's coming from, how it's coming, how you're conditioned to go against your own self-interest and your own nature. If you'll see it, And I know it's fucking horrible, right? But I want you to be able to bear the psychological burden of it and deal with it and carry it and move on, because it's a war that we're all in. I know that, the things that happen to you are the things that happen to you, right? Like, you walked into a minefield, right? Or, you walked into, an ambush, or she told, a bunch of lies were told about you at work. I know it's different for everybody, but the fact that you're screwed over and you got hurt in a gynocentric system, that's not different. And the fact that it was done, I mean, it wasn't done to you personally. They do it with everybody, everywhere. So the burden of that, it's like, oh, they fucked me over. God screwed me. God put me here thinking that I would get together with a woman and build a good life. And now they just told a whole bunch of fucking lies about me. So fuck everything. I want you to be able to recognize that that's exactly what happens to every man, and that the measure of this situation is for you to actually deal with that burden and to be strong even with that burden. You know what I mean? And it's a tough one, and you might not be ready to even look at, what's going on. I know that we're not. I made the video Certain Blindness, and that was, I was kind of talking a little bit about William James, and he was kind of talking about something different. He's talking more about the idea that these precious things that you think are the most important thing in life, like equality between men and women, are not necessarily the things that another person thinks of are the most important thing in life. Like finding your own way, being a strong, independent individual who can, support themselves and sustain themselves into the future. That's what I think, is the most important thing. So that just made me lose my train of thought for some reason. Not enough caffeine. It's like, Howard Dare needs more caffeine. Get him more caffeine. He's losing his train of thought. Oh, yeah. Okay, so there you go. Certain Blindness, Human Beings, William James. I'm talking about, a slightly different aspect where we, hide these painful truths from ourselves. But understand that the women that the system around you wants you to hide those truths. Come on. You do love her, don't you? And she is hot, right? So they want you to hide these truths. It's like, no, she's a bitch, man. She's trying to destroy me. And she will. She'll tell lies about you sexually and everything. It's like, but she's hot, right? So they want you to lie to yourself, and at the same time, we've got this masculine aspect of things. It's like, well, it's not that bad. I'll deal with it. There's no reason to, focus on it like that. So there's all these things about the male nature that are just being used against men. And you need to find these things out for yourself and turn these things back to your advantage. Find the things that you like to do in life that give you joy. And then, you make some money with them too, right? And you do them because you love them and because it's the right thing to do. I'm just looking at some of the questions. I can't read that. Oh shit, too late. Yeah, I have to apologize for some of my videos, right? Like those things will shock the shit out of you, It's like here's a picture of some nice, pretty young girls that are smiling at the camera, and here's a picture of Angela Merkel. It's like, they fade into each other. It's like, oh, why'd you do that to me, Howard Dare? So I was listening to a Stefan Molyneux, call-in thing where he was like, but he beats the shit out of those, those questioners sometimes when he doesn't like what they're saying. Yeah, he doesn't take any shit at all. Joe Rogan, giving Stephen Chowder a hard time. I like Rogan. I like his podcast, although sometimes he comes off as a liberal bitch, you know. But you can't. You take the good parts from everybody. You can't get this full agreement. This idea that you have to be in full agreement with somebody that doesn't make any sense. It's absurd. You take the things that you like that can serve you, and You leave the rest. As far as knowledge, experience from another man goes, that's fine. So yeah, two different types of blindness. Man, I am not helping my YouTube channel by talking about those types of subjects. I would be so much better off just talking about crazy bitches, why certain types of women like boob jobs, whether or not IQ and beauty are related, why single mothers become whores, stuff like that. Why women are so unhappy even though they, are doing so well. Bitches going crazy, like really, really overtly sexual women, asserting, their physical dominance because of their sexual, value over men and in a situation, right? Like just crazy bitch attacks, right? Like some, hot bitch just comes around the corner and just starts screaming shit at some unknown guy. And he's like looking around at his friends and they're like, fuck that. I'm not getting anywhere near this situation, Yeah, just videos like that, strippers who decide to beat the shit out of some guy for going too far. Crazy fucking women who are like on police cameras, they're just like, he tried to touch my ass. He's trying to rape me, and it's like all on camera, yeah, those videos would get, hot views, no doubt about it, especially if you play them a certain way. But no, I'm not going to do that. That's disgusting. Right. Okay. So you know what kind of videos to expect from me next week. No, I'm serious, man. Check out my content. Subscribe to my channel. Fucking serious content. Next week, we are going to kick some ass because I got to move on, from this psychological attack situation. What's this going on here? I'm going to try to read this. Single women are unhappy because they don't have a penis to control. They want a penis that doesn't have to work for $2,000 a month, just like them. Yeah, they're going to be real unhappy. Thanks for the statement, Michael. It's a good one. Yeah, they are unhappy, and they think they want a penis, to control, but no, they want a penis to control them. They want a man to control them, and you can witness this behavior in groups of females. And if there's just a bunch of females around and they're getting all worked up, they become crazy bitches. And if you put a weak juvenile male in their midst, they will rip him to pieces. But if you put a big, strong, capable male in their midst, they'll settle down. They'll start acting right. But not if you dose all their feed with estrogen and you dose the feed of the men with estrogen. And then you start brainwashing those little chickens, those roosters, by making them watch Oprah and shit like that, making them, watch feminist marches and things like the Star Wars movie where females are just beating the shit out of men. So you make the roosters watch shit like that. And then anytime the rooster, says, that's a bunch of bullshit. That little fucking 5'2" girl couldn't kick the shit out of all those men. That's absurd. That offends me. That insults me. Right? You just beat the shit out of him. You just start yelling at him. Like, how dare you talk like that? Who do you think you are? Check your privilege. So will that rooster be able to put those women in order? Hell no. Hell no. It's a goddamn shame what happens to those roosters. You could even drug those roosters too if they start acting too uppity. Because who the fuck do they think they are, right? The roosters acting all like roosters, No, just you can't take it. If you allow that, you want to know what'll happen? That fucking rooster will be cockle-doodle-doodling every fucking morning, nonstop, and there'll be dozens of them. No, you see, actually, there it is, right? Competitive exclusion. There's only going to be one. There can be only one, right? This is a rewriting of the Highlander theme from Rooster's point of view. There can be only one. But it's the law of competitive exclusion. And, we men, we don't have to kill each other, right? We just kind of like, move into our own areas of expertise. And it works out just fine. This is why you can take a group of men and they can form a nice hunting troop. One guy's got really good eyes, another guy's got really good ears, another guy really knows the area, another guy's got really good smell, another guy's got, is really, really strong, right? So you can just like order the men in all this stuff. There's none of this like, we're all equal, No, they order according to that. And if they don't, they become failures. It doesn't work, They can also fight to figure out, who's best at certain things. Competitive exclusion. But then you take that away, you're not an effective hunting unit. You don't get the strongest ones, in the right areas. So that's what we're experiencing now. And you as a man will be shuffled into this nowhere land, this beta male land. And it's no joke because the man becomes obese and he becomes diabetic. Even the attitude, that's what I was saying about prison, right? Because those guys don't get good food. They don't get great exercise, but they sure do get a lot of attitude, don't they? And I'll bet that ramps up the metabolism. So you can't have this feminine attitude. You can't, if you do, it'll undercut you. So that's part of, finding your own way. You have to find yourself, then you have to build your own way. And the principles apply to women too. So, there's young women out there listening to this situation, the principles of MGTOW can apply to women. Now, they're not going to be going their own way from men, from the system that men built, from the society and the civilization that men built, and the laws and the patriarchal institutions that men built. As a matter of fact, they're, inhabiting the shit out of them. They're taking them over, right? You realize by the year 2060, there will be like no men in college. Okay. Yeah. Cause they're all stupid fucking engineers, right? Those men are so stupid. Oh, they all just want sex, right? Congratulations, ladies, right? That's how smart you are. It's retarded. And I'm not joking. Okay. And the only problem is that most of you can't do the math. You can't even do the math to figure out that at this rate of, if things go on exactly as they're going on right now, where do you think men will be in the year 2060? So if any of you have any children, just take what's going on now, the rate that it's happening, extrapolate that outwards, and understand that, it accelerates. What happens? No men in school, no manufacturing jobs. The idea of artificial wombs, or even something, like Brave New World, Huxley's Brave New World, with their baby incubators. Some MGTOW talk about it like it'll be a glorious future. It might be the only future for man. What do you think? I mean, how do you think these girls are looking, right? Take a look at, yeah. They're too fat. They're diabetic. They're entitled fat princess bitches. Where do you think that's heading? The men with this feminist globalist attitude. Look at what it's doing to their health, to their health. Where do you think that's heading? So, 40 years, you got a bunch of fat round people walking around. They're not male, they're not female, they're all special snowflakes. Check out the people who are on, the SSRIs, the antidepressants. They document, their progress on these drugs right here on YouTube. Type in Prozac, type in SSRIs. Watch 3 or 4 of their videos. Watch what they look like when they start taking these drugs. They look like a young man. They look like a young girl. Watch what they look like 3 months in. They start to look different. They cut their hair different. They start acting funny. Check what they look like 6 months in on these drugs. Check what they look like 1 year in. They become a complete special snowflake. They actually use the term special snowflake. I'm not kidding. They cut their hair like little boys. They wear glasses. They tape their boobs. They become completely asexual. It completely fucks up their minds. Now look at the people, with their diabetes moving forward into the future. They're going to have sex? They're going to have kids? Of course not. And if they did, what a nightmare for everyone involved, for them and for the children. And what kind of a system would you be raising them into? So if you were intelligent enough to have read any of those books, how could you then produce a child? How could you then say, oh, yeah, I'm going to engage in this act, which I know is going to create a child? Because I feel like it. Yeah, you've had sex with thousands of women, huh? Because that's how much of a man you are. So if you had a single ounce of intelligence in these conditions, under those conditions that I was describing, which are just a little bit worse than what we're looking at right now, and are exactly where we're going to be in 30 or 40 years if we don't turn this around. Imagine if you were a child that was born into that situation. How would you have turned out? I mean, for all the difficulty that you've, had, and you're going to overcome this psychological burden of feminism in this, gynocentric world, you're going to carry it. You are. You're going to recognize it. You're going to process it. And you're going to fucking be okay with it. Then we're going to get the show started. Then we'll show you what MGTOW can really do. Let's see if I got any questions in the chat here. I've had some, but I pretty much ignore them. Let's see. All right, so we got, everybody's in the chat. Yeah, I have to take a break if I get too excited. I wouldn't mind putting other people on, but what the hell. Yeah, so what would you do if you were Mark Zuckerberg? Or if you not if you were Mark Zuckerberg. What would you do if you had Mark Zuckerberg's media situation? Because he's a cuck. Zuck the cuck. And I can't believe that the fake mainstream news media is calling some of us fake news. How dare they? There's a big difference between a giant news organization, millions of dollars worth of production, countless people in their employ, giant corporations, advertising, versus you standing out there with a camera, taking a picture, your cell phone, talking about something. There's a big difference between those two things. And you know which one I would rather have? I'd rather have you. Now, I know that it's coming through your filters. You know what I mean? That whatever it is you think about the situation, that's what you're kind of focusing on. I know that. And I know that you don't have the same kind of production quality as one of those other places. But I'll trust you giving your views over that multi-million-dollar production. Because I know, hey, there's a 90% chance that Hillary Clinton's going to win this election. What? She didn't win? What? What are you talking about? Yeah, well, maybe a new manifesto on globalism will change that. Maybe enough obstruction, of Trump's agenda, will change that. Maybe enough false narratives on the news will change that. Maybe enough news stories about somebody tying their shoelaces will change that. I'm referring to the idea that the mainstream media can focus on these unimportant process questions about people, as opposed to the issues as to what we're actually doing, and then they can crucify someone based on those things, because that's what they do. You know, they create narratives. They're storytellers, and they're legend builders. They're myth builders. Now, they're going to try to distract you and to trap you as a man, but you need to stay focused as a MGTOW on finding your own way. They're going to want to distract you to go their way. And it's an easy thing to do. And as a young man, you're conditioned to do that. And there's a lot of advantages to be had there too. You know what I mean? It's not like as MGTOW, you're leaving the city and fucking wandering out into the desert, you know what I mean, to eat sand. No, you're staying in the city. But you're recognizing that the boss's jokes, they're no longer funny. The advice that other guy is giving to you is going to have to be filtered through his physical form. You know what I mean? So if he's giving you advice on how to act, but he's all crippled and busted up inside and all diseased, then you better consider that in his advice, right? And if they want to put, a multi-million-dollar presentation together and say to you that there's a 90% chance that this retarded bitch is, your leader, when, you wouldn't follow this bitch if she fell off of a truck and was just trying to get out of the way of a parade, you'd be like, well, we're going the wrong way now. So it's a hard thing to do. It's a hard thing to stand up for the things that you believe in for yourself. And you don't have to force this on other people. You don't have to hate them. You don't have to be angry about it. You just have to do it for yourself. And it's real hard. I feel sorry. I do, for you younger guys dealing with the situation. I feel sorry for you dealing with the shame, with the shaming, that people try to put upon you. It's like, man, this system seems unfair. I see all these other guys going through this system and they're just getting destroyed. They're just like getting chopped up like in a slaughterhouse. Like, I don't want to end up like that. Like, 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10. It's like, I want to go my own way. And you got these others, 7 or 8 guys that are like, oh, what are you, gay? Don't you love women? So it's like, no, I think you might be making a mistake there, pal. I think you're like, not considering everything involved here. And it's like, no, I'm going to have 5 kids. Don't worry about it. Someone else will pay for them. Right? And if you've got an ounce of intelligence, you're like, no, I don't think so. And I don't feel real comfortable around this woman, because she's looking at you and she's like, I can call the cops on you. It's like, what's your favorite ice cream? What television show do you want to watch? I can call the cops on you. Should we go here for dinner? I can call the cops on you. I can accuse you of a crime. So that's what the man is living under. That's what the young man is living under every moment. And he's going to pretend, oh, it's not really like that. And she's going to pretend too, oh, we really love you. So, that's the psychological thing that you're living under. And it's working from your boss, from your advertisement, from the educational department, from the religion. And they're not even, as I said, they're not doing it. This is what they were trained with, So this is how they're training you. And if you step out of line, they're going to do to you what was done with them. So how do you get raised up in that system with those values, internalizing those values, then recognize what they're going to do to you, extract yourself from it, which is going to be so painful, and yet, not like I said, walk out into the desert to eat the sand. You're still going to have to work with the system. Now, what I think is the critical part is the psychological damage that it's done. Do you ever see that South Park episode where they rape the shit out of Indiana Jones? It's fucking horrible, man. The kids are going to they're going to see Indiana Jones, the remake, the newer one. And they're real excited. And they don't like the newer one, because Lucas just rapes Indiana Jones in it, and they're screaming and crying, coming out of this, trying to drag themselves out of the theater, like, don't look. Slow motion scenes, screaming and shit. I'm sorry. It's funny. Check it out. It's hysterical. But shit, this is like the psychological, rape of man. It's like, shit, they just turned him into a fucking mangina right there in front of us, It's like, holy shit, I used to look up to this guy. Used to have like some sort of a masculine image that you could like follow and stuff. It's like you take John Wayne or something like that and you put him in pink, and you make him gay and stuff. And it's like, oh, you bastards. You killed Kenny, you bastards. So I like South Park, and I don't think they're trying to be political. And I don't think that they're just being irreverent either, like they're just offending everybody. I think that they're, offending the shit out of most of us and being funny at the same time. That show only takes 6 days for them to write it, to make it, and to get it on television. That's how they're so, timely. That's how they can deal with issues so directly. I'm currently playing The Stick of Truth, which is the South Park game. Not bad. It's like a RPG adventure game, I guess. But the best part of it is just playing with the South Park characters. And they've got the new one coming out, or maybe it's already come out. But I'm sure I'll, play that one as well. And I've played the first 2 episodes of Walking Dead Telltale. And I can barely remember it now. Damn, I really can't. Let's see, I wasn't playing as Clementine, though, was I? No, she was just like part of the characters. Yeah, so it can't be that good because I wasn't even remembering it. It's like, oh shit, I can't wait, for the 3rd episode. Those are interesting games, you know what I mean? They're more like fucking entertainments, It's not like, it's more like an interactive movie is what it is, with some, quick time button mashing and a few choices here and there. Now, sometimes though, they're pretty cool. Like when they're, moving through their big climactic scenes for the episode. Those can be pretty cool. I wonder if anybody ever tells Mark Zuckerberg no. Like, man, that's a fucked up, stupid idea. You're being a bitch. You need to man up a little bit and start fucking recognizing it from, a man's point of view. It's like, guy has enough money to have your memory wiped. You won't even know it. You won't even know. I am looking forward to the 4th episode of Sherlock. Yeah, because his sister, they've got a sister. And I'm looking forward to the next episode of Walking Dead, the television show. What the hell was Rick Grimes smiling about as he was surrounded by those women? Well, they were women, right? It's a group of women, It's like, oh, well, you're looking for help, right? You're open to the idea of allies. I'm sure we can make some sort of a deal. That's one thing to smile about, like if you're rocking around, dealing with women. Some interesting thing that I found out that was pointed out to me because I was being, female horses, mares, do lead the herd, but they lead it in a kind of like gentle, kind of like this is the way to the food kind of way. And they are involved in like mediating relationships and kind of like keeping certain social structure in place and things like that. So yeah, they're kind of like leaders. Now, while this is going on, the strongest males of the herd are the strongest male is at the back of the herd, actually, making sure that no predators are coming up on the rear. And the lesser valued males are, of course, on the outskirts of the herd, keeping it safe, fighting off. Where the women and children are kept towards the center of the herd. So it isn't as if she's actually like leading the herd, but she definitely has a place, in that dynamic. Kind of like the human resources department, right? Yeah. Red Pill Germany just made a video on women and horses. Excuse me. Girls, rather, and horses. So check that out. A lot of other great MGTOW videos out there. I don't like to talk about them because, um, you know, I don't want anybody to think I'm giving them a hard time. Or that I'm like trying to start up some sort of drama or anything like that. So I only mentioned them in passing and, in a complimentary way. So, yeah, check out the Zuck manifesto. It is a cuck manifesto where he's in favor of globalism. And he just uses all this moralistic language, flowery bullshit language, to try to pretend that like he really is, has the most virtue. And we should put him in charge, because he really is the most virtuous. And that's what he's saying, that his ideas really are the best. And that those of you who don't agree with him, you just don't understand. You're just backwards and stupid. But in time, you will learn through your suffering and through your sacrifice. That's what he's saying. And it's not even like he's a big, strong man. You know what I mean? And when I say that, I mean it's not even like he's a strong, experienced, capable leader. He's a soft boy, right? It's like, I'm in a lot of trouble now, huh? That's how daring we are on the Howard Dare channel. You don't hear anybody else talking like this, saying I'll kick Mark Zuckerberg's ass, and I will. I will kick his ass. You dig a pit, okay? You throw me and Mark Zuckerberg down in that pit, I will beat the shit out of him. It's true. 2 men enter, 1 man leaves. Now, if we made that a financial competition, I'm afraid that yeah, he's already won that. He's already won that. Yeah, I've already lost that one. But we're building up the Howard Dare Studios here. I foresee great things for the Howard Dare channel, this next year. Yeah. I predict that we will continue to grow and try new things. I'm still small enough that I can try new things, and I'm going to try to take advantage of that. My things can change and things like that. It's nothing set in stone here. Whereas if I had some sort of like larger interest, maybe it would be. I don't know. I definitely want to improve the quality of the podcast, though. And I just mentioned that in passing. Doesn't have anything to do with the podcast right now. Zuck will lose the financial war, Vatho says, once his wife takes him to the cleaners and strips Facebook from him. Is he married? I gotta check that one out. Is Zuckerberg married? Because if he's not, I'm interested. All that money, my God. Priscilla Chan. Priscilla Chan is obviously an Asian woman. His spouse. Priscilla Chan is an American philanthropist and pediatrician. She is the wife of Mark Zuckerberg, co-founder and CEO of Facebook, as of 2015. She and her husband have pledged more than 1.6 billion to charities. Yeah, and that probably represents like less than 0.0001. How did Zuckerberg meet his wife? Let's see. He began dating Priscilla Chan in 2003. In an interview with the New Yorker, Chan said that the couple met while waiting in line for the bathroom at a party hosted by Mr. Zuckerberg's fraternity, Alpha Epsilon Pi. Soon, these two students at Harvard started dating each other. Oh, no, we don't care about this other stuff. Oh yeah, he's dead meat. You know what I mean? And actually, no, he's not. He has enough money that he's very well protected in that regard. I think so. You know what I mean? But it's possible. It's possible. I mean, there's no reason why she wouldn't rip him to pieces if she could. I'll give you that. That there will come a time when she gets tired of him, and she not just tired of him. It is a biological function where the woman wants rid of the man after about 3.5 years at the most. And it's because it's biological, it's instinctual, it's evolutionary. That's all that, in the past, that men were able to hang around. They would get killed in that time period, or they would move on. Right. So, yeah, it's only in this modern industrial situation where you want to build this, highly intelligent creature that the men are going to be hanging around. In other words, the men are not hanging around for the women, they're hanging around for the children. And they're probably not hanging around for the female children because they know that the female children are only going to be mediocre. They're hanging around for the men children, for the male children. That's why the men are hanging around. But it's also tied to his, it was tied to his self-interest, right? The more sons he had, the more he could build his empire. It was tied to his self-interest, but it's not anymore. I mean, he doesn't own the son at all. The son hates his guts. I was like, what do you think of your father? It's like, oh, yeah, he's a bum. My mom told me that he's worthless. My mom did everything. It's like it's because he gave her the money, and the state gave her the money. She didn't do those things. She was given the money to do those things by the man. So how can you hate? Anyway, so you know what I'm talking about. You've encountered this. And when you look at another guy that you meet, blue pill guy, and you're like, hey, look, women might not be the greatest things throughout all of history. He's like, yeah, but what about Joan of Arc? What about Madame Curie? It's like, yeah, there's two of them. And he believes it. And he doesn't realize what it's going to do to his health. He doesn't realize that, he's like, it's like he's looked at two pieces of food, and one was a good, strong, healthy bit of food, and another was a bit of poisonous, goop. And he rejected the strong, healthy food, and he went to the poisonous goop and started slurping it up. It's like, oh yeah, women are great. Women are just as good as men. Oh, I trust a woman's opinion on anything. Oh yeah, women can fly the plane. Oh yeah, woman could be heavyweight champion. Like, because she said so, and if I don't agree with her, she's going to pitch a fit. And this guy just gets fatter and sicker and weaker, and he capitulates more and more, and he whines and he dotes, and he looks around at other men like, well, don't you love the women? What, are you gay? And he just turns into this blob. So that's what I'm talking about. That's the fate I'm saying you've got to avoid. You've got to see it and you've got to avoid it. And MGTOW is the answer. And I think it's important, so you have to share my videos. I don't know that you have to share all MGTOW videos. Yeah, you should watch them, no doubt about it, but I don't know. Do what you think is right. Find out, figure out what you think is right and then do it, or start doing it. And, and build up slow, right? You have to start at the beginning of things. I can't have 50,000 subscribers. I can't go from, 1, or 10 subscribers to 50,000. I can only go to the next, 1,000. That's all I can do. To the next 100, to the next, 10. That's all we can do. That's all you're trying to do is just make progress and then, build up on it. So do that and watch my videos and share my videos. I'll try to make them better too. I'll try to make them, cleaner, neater, more to the point, more entertaining, more shareable. Well, see, here's the thing. If I make them more shareable, they lose their, they don't have much of an edge. Right? So that's what I'm going to try to do. But I think 2017 is going to be a great year for MGTOW. Let me look around here. Yeah, Bill Gates has released an editorial about how globalism and how dangerous terrorist situations will affect the spread of epidemics, because he's into that, stopping, the spread of the epidemics and things like that. And the financial stability and the conditions in the world affect the health and the spread of epidemics and things like that. And, the less security and the less well off that people are financially, the worse it is for them medically. Yeah. Pence and Merkel are meeting, supposedly, and embrace NATO, but differ on transatlantic partnership. Yeah, so the vice president meets with, Merkel. Check my latest video for my views on Merkel. I consider her to be the number one craziest bitch in the world. Yeah, I just mentioned that in passing, right? But hey, it's not personal, right? She's an example of this feminine grandma crazy type. Like, well, it's a woman, so she can't be crazy and she can't be doing anything wrong. It's like, well, you're wrong about that. It's a woman and she can be completely crazy. Yeah, Zuck doesn't look healthy. He really doesn't. Well, he doesn't look too fat, though, so good for him. Okay, so here we are back at the podcast. All right, so I'm going to be ending this, winding down, no doubt about it. I just wanted to do the podcast. I really didn't have a whole lot to say, but I was like, well, here it is. It's time. And, I'd like to do something. So I'm hoping to improve on the quality of the situation here. So it's not only an event, but, it actually has some content to it, like something actually happens. I don't know what. I have no idea. I can't really tell you that. I mean, if I knew that, we'd probably already be doing it. Now, you'd think I could get ideas from other podcasts and, stuff like that. But no. I can't, because I live in a bubble created by Mark Zuckerberg. Yes, media bubbles, media concentration centers. So imagine you're born into it, right? You're born into a single mother household. Okay. You're born into the inner city. They put you in the public schools. You're living on welfare. You're told every day, that these are the values that are the most important thing in the world, and that white men are the demons of the world, and that if except for them, you know what I mean, you'd be living in a utopia. You would just be, you would have, it would just be perfect. It would just be rainbows and unicorns and happy puppies and warm feelings everywhere. Your favorite music, your favorite ice cream, sleeping in, all the money, all the skills, all the validation, the way it should be for everybody all the time. Everybody in the world, it should be like that for them all the time. And the only reason why it's not is because of white men. And everybody in the world is agreeing with this except for the white men. And you know what they're doing? They're running around apologizing. Oh, sorry, I'll try to do it harder. Oh, I'm sorry, I'll get that. Yo, well, we're going to invent something new for that. Oh, I'm sure we'll figure out a way to fill this problem. Oh. And the women are like playing this game. And it's not the women, it's the whole system, and the men are letting it happen. They're like, but I love her. I'd do anything for her. It's like, yeah, you will. Yes, you will. But can you be strong enough to bear all of this and to recover and to be okay with it? And then to go on and be of service to your fellow man, to work, for yourself, for fuck your fellow man. I'm sorry about that, but, to still care, because that's what's happened. You know what I mean? That's what happens to the MGTOW, to the early MGTOW, when he realizes this betrayal. That's what happens. He loses the faith and the confidence. So can you recover from that? Because it's a psychological attack. So keep that in mind. And remember, it's not personal, right? She would have done it to you. She would have done it to Hercules. She would have done it to the best looking man in the world. It didn't matter. Didn't matter. It wasn't you. It was the circumstances that triggered her. And you were just going along with the system. So if you can recognize it, you can bear it. And you can move on from it. So that's what I'm hoping will happen. But let me know what you think about this in the comment section below. Or in a post, or in a message, or in an email, or make a video. Just let me know what you think, or just express yourself somehow. Don't keep it bottled up inside. Do what you have to do. Don't hurt anybody, but do what you have to do to express yourself. There's no words, man. There are no words for the rage a man feels recognizing the betrayal that happens. So this is where I relate to the fucking werewolves just howling. I understand them perfectly. I know exactly what they're saying. When I hear this wolf howling out in the distance, screaming, sometimes it's a happy howl, sometimes it's a sad, sometimes it's angry, sometimes it's lonely, but I know exactly what it means. And there's no words. So go ahead and howl, right? Because there's no words to express the amount of pain that a man goes through, losing the people he loves, realizing that he's not that they've lied to him, but that he's lied to himself. No words describe it. And it's all yours too. It's unique to you. And I know what it feels like. And as I said, I can recognize even subtle differences in the howl. I can recognize it. It's like, oh, yeah, he loved her and she cheated on him. I can hear that in the way that he expresses himself. It's like, oh, they fired him from the job that he loved. I can hear that in the howl and the scream and the anger. It's like, oh, they shamed the shit out of him because he was a little different. I can hear it. I can hear it in the way, writes his comments. Not exactly, you know what I mean? But yeah, it's that bad. It's that painful. So express yourselves. Don't keep that bottled up inside. And don't deny that it actually happened, but recognize that it wasn't personal and that you can bear it and you can recover and you can actually be stronger as a result of it. So I'm going to leave it at that. So let me know what you think about it. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, donate, and join me again, Howard Dare, as I plan to have more content for you. Thank you, guys.